Hey everyone, this is Bill. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Today we're talking college football. We're going to present our Week 8 top 25. We're going to look at some teams that fell out of last week's top 25. We're going to see about some teams that are looking to get in next week's top 25. And we're going to do some quick hits on some things going around the country. So join us as we present our Week 8 top 25. Two teams fell out of last week's top 25. At 21st, Clemson. They lost at Miami, Florida this past weekend in double overtime. Now, we had Clemson ranked preseason number 8. They had an outstanding, a full veteran team. Cade Klubnik looks the part at quarterback. They had a very easy schedule and had Florida State at home. But Clemson lost to Duke early. We knew Duke was a good football team, but we still thought Clemson would take that. And then we thought maybe the FSU, they'd split that and maybe play them later in the ACC title game. But everything looks to be coming kind of apart for Clemson. They don't have the firepower they used to be, even though they got a great running game. And Klubnik seems to be able to throw it. But I just don't know if they have the skilled people on the outside. They're not as good in the trenches as they used to be, and this great defense is not playing all that well either. So Clemson kind of at a crossroads. We kind of anticipated this might be coming. We talked about it a little bit in our preseason preview, but Clemson, with the loss down there, not looking like the Clemson that we've been accustomed to know down there in South Florida this past weekend. And kudos to Miami. They hit them right in the face. Iowa dropped out. We didn't think Iowa was very good anyway, but they were 6-1. They lost at home to Minnesota. Now, they had a punt return by Cooper DeJean that was taken away at the end of the game due to penalty. That was very questionable. But Iowa, they're not very good. The Big Ten West is a disaster. But these two teams did fall out this week, and both of them are looking for a path back in, but it might be difficult. All right, so who are some teams that are looking to get in next week's top 25? Well, the Hurricanes, we just mentioned them. They're 5-2. They got a horrible loss at home to Georgia Tech. We chronicled that a couple weeks ago, but they did get Clemson beat. They played very well. In the line of scrimmage, they played well. Miami, this is kind of the performance that they've been looking for all year, Miami, so they might be on the up and come. James Madison is undefeated. Of course, Air Force undefeated as well. Fresno State's a good team. Texas A&M trying to salvage Jimbo Fisher down there. Can they do it? The schedule's kind of rough the rest of the way. Arizona really turning heads out there in the Pac-12. We're going to have to see what's going on with Arizona, but they're an up-and-coming team. I don't know how good they are this year, but they look pretty stout. Wyoming's a decent team out there, especially at home. Kansas State just destroyed Texas Christian this week. We did not see that coming. We thought Kansas State could win it, but man, they dominated the football game. The Jayhawks, they're still looking pretty good. Oklahoma State started out terrible. They got killed by South Alabama at home, but they've been running games off since, and they look pretty good right now. Hats off to Rutgers. Now, they are involved in this Michigan situation with Coach Greg Schiano commenting at halftime about how things were kind of crazy out there. Michigan did beat Rutgers, but Rutgers is 6-2 in the East. They already qualified for a bowl, so hats off to Rutgers. Of course, we got Clemson. They're looking to get back in the top 25, and we also got Liberty looking to get in there. They're a decent football team as well, so that's who's looking to get in. Now, before we get off to the top 25, let's take a minute to talk about the Big Ten West. Now, we seem to be here every year. What a mess this place is. Now, Wisconsin, they're up top here. They almost got beat by Illinois. They came back from, I think, a 21-7 deficit to win that. I don't know how they won it. They're not very good, Wisconsin. Iowa just got beat at home by Minnesota. They're not very good. They're particularly bad on offense. Minnesota, now they got killed by Northwestern, who's terrible, but then they turn around and win at Iowa. Here's Nebraska. Nebraska's defense is pretty stout, but man, they got a lot of problems on offense. I don't know if they could beat Bellevue West on offense. Good grief, they're terrible. Northwestern, they're terrible. I don't know what they're doing. Purdue, they got a decent quarterback. They kind of got some things going on offense, but they're not very good. Illinois, we thought they might be the best team, and they may have beat Wisconsin, but their best defensive lineman got tossed out of the game in mid-game, and everything went downhill for Illinois after that, but they're not playing good either. This division's a mess. Whoever comes out of this thing, and it could be just about any one of these teams, is going to get slobber knockered in the Big Ten championship game. This is just embarrassing. Hard to say what's going on. I mean, you think about the history of Nebraska and what they're putting on the field right now. Maybe Rule can get this turned around. They used to line up, and it was 28-0 before anybody got their Coca-Cola and sat down. Those days are gone. Now they're okay on defense, but offense in the whole division is just missing. They're on a milk carton somewhere. It's amazing, but that's where we are. The Big Ten West, just terrible. Now, before we get over to our top 25, we want to invite you to join us over on Facebook at the Color and Pageantry. We're not a very big operation over there, but we do post cool things about college football during the week. Think you might enjoy that? So if so, feel welcome to join us over there at the Color and Pageantry on Facebook. Now we want to go over some tidbits. Look at Western Kentucky's uniform. Look at these helmet decals from the various position groups. This is really cool. I mean, if I'm Alabama, I don't want to do this, but for Western Kentucky, this is awesome. Tremendous. Kudos. Folks, Arkansas is off to a horrendous start. They put 3 on the board early against Mississippi State at home and proceeded not to do anything the rest of the day. Now, we like Sam Pittman. What a fun guy. Really thought he had things going there at Arkansas, but boy, it does not look good, and I just don't know how they can continue to operate like this. Just a disappointing situation there at Arkansas for Coach Sam Pittman, who, buddy, I know he can coach and a really good guy. So hoping something different happens there soon, but it doesn't look good there for the Hogs. Now, Michigan State, I don't know what's going on over there. They've had a ton of really, really bad things going on off the field, and they're not very good on the field. And, of course, the whole situation with Mel Tucker that we chronicled a couple weeks back, and that's still lingering. There's legalities going on there. We're going to find out about that down the road. But Michigan State will be looking for a new head football coach. What do they do this weekend? They have a trivia contest on their stadium before the game, and it's a big old picture of Adolf Hitler up there. Now, that's not a smart thing to be doing anyway, but particularly given the geopolitical events that we've had that is just idiocy. What is going on at Michigan State? Man, that is, if I was a Spartan, I mean, I about had enough right now if I'm a Spartan booster. They got to get the whole thing washed out over there and get some people that know what the heck they're doing over there for Spartans. That is just, and then they got bludgeoned by the Wolverines. So, not a good weekend if you're a man of the Sparty. All right, kicking off our top 25 for this week. At number 25, we got the Florida Gators. Now, they got 2 losses at Utah and Kentucky. They were not really competitive in either one of those, but they did beat Tennessee handily, and Tennessee's looking pretty good. So we like the Gators in here at 25th. Now, they got the Georgia Bulldogs. We are so excited about the Florida-Georgia game. We kind of got to thinking that was last week, but no, that's this week. Both teams were off last week. They're going to get ready to play in Jacksonville, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I don't think the Gators can win it, but they're going to be there. But anyway, Florida, pretty decent, 5-2. They're coming in 25th. Now, there's Kentucky. They got losses. Georgia just killed them, but they're pretty good. Kentucky, and they handled Florida decisively, so Kentucky got a lot in front of them. So let's see what the Wildcats can do. Tulane, they're 5-1. They're a good football team. Louisville, 6-1. We talked about that. They beat Notre Dame, turn around and get killed by Pitt, who's not very good. I don't know what's going on with Pitt and Pat Narduzzi, but they're not very good. UCLA, now this is a good football team, UCLA. They pounded Stanford this week. They can do some damage. They're kind of a physical bunch, and that quarterback Dante Moore that's an outstanding young player, so watch them. North Carolina upset at home by lowly Virginia. Now, I recognize this is a rivalry on the basketball court, but not necessarily on the football field. But I don't know what North Carolina was doing. Mac Brown, you ought to be smarter than that. They just got blindsided and got beat and taken them out of what could have been a very special season for them. They can still do a lot and get to the title game and maybe win it. But they were undefeated and were favored the rest of the way. So very disappointing for North Carolina. They're in at 20. USC is 19th. Lost to Oregon again. Third time in 2 years here. So Caleb Williams is good, but his antics on the sideline are getting really old. I wonder if some NFL teams are going to be looking at this. This is just not very impressive, to be sure. But Southern Cal, they've got more problems than it looks like most know over there. They're still got a lot of offensive firepower, so they're still quite dangerous. But Southern Cal, they're going to come in at 19th. Tennessee is 18th. Now, they had Alabama beat at the half, but then got hammered in the second half, couldn't make the adjustments. So Tennessee, they got 2 losses now to Florida and Alabama, but they can still do a lot of things there for Tennessee. Duke is 17th. Lost at Florida State. Played a very good football game. We knew Duke is a better football team than anybody knows. They're very physical. They got a good quarterback. They know what they're doing under Elko. They're really good. They had Florida State going for a while. Once Jordan Travis started running the ball, though, things opened up for the Seminoles. And, of course, Duke's quarterback getting hurt. That didn't help. But Duke, decent football team at 17th. Interested to see, especially if their quarterback's not available, how they're going to go the rest of the way. But I think if the quarterback's available, I like Duke to almost win out, I think. Missouri, a lot better than you think. Missouri, their only loss at home to LSU, who's very good. So Missouri sitting in there at 16th. We like what's going on in Columbia. And Notre Dame's at 15th. Just 4-game stretch, very tough for the Irish. It's going to stay tough. They play a tough schedule, Notre Dame. 6-2 coming in at 15th, the Fighting Irish. LSU is 14th. Now LSU's very strong. They do have 2 losses to Ole Miss and then to Florida State in the opener. They do have a big win, as we just mentioned, over Missouri. LSU, Jaden Daniels, a lot of people are looking at him for the Heisman right now, so we'll have to see. But LSU has a lot going for them. They're 14th. Now coming in at 13th is Utah, who just beat USC. Utah still without their quarterback, but great in the line of scrimmage. They play sound defense. They're trouble. Utah for sure. Oregon State. Now this is a fine football team. People are kind of overlooking the Beavers. Took that early loss to Washington State, but on the road there. But they're a good football team. Watch those guys, the Beavers. I'm telling you. And then there's Ole Miss, 11th, having one of their better seasons. They could not handle Alabama this year, but they're looking good. Ole Miss. Penn State is 10th. They fell to Ohio State. Did not look particularly good in doing so. Couldn't generate any offense. And just not what we kind of expected to see from the Nittany Lions. Thought this was their best opportunity to make something happen in one of those games in quite some time. And folks, it didn't happen. It was never really close. 9th is Alabama. Now, they were behind Tennessee at the half, but they made the adjustments under Coach Saban and came out and outscored Tennessee 27-0 in the second half to beat the Vols on the 3rd Saturday in October. Alabama's got everything ahead of them. They got LSU coming up. It's all there for the Tide to get back into that championship game and knock off the Bulldogs. And guess what? Be right back in the playoff. So we'll have to see how it shakes out for Alabama. Texas, now they're 8th. They are in a quandary now because they barely beat Houston. Got the benefit of a call in that game that really helped them. Now their quarterback appears to be out for a couple of weeks. So we're going to have to see how this shakes out for Texas. But, they do have the win over Alabama. They are a very good football team. They did lose to Oklahoma, but that was late. That could have been a coin flip. But Texas looking good, but their quarterback's out. We'll have to see. But they're coming in at 8th. Oregon is number 7. The loss to Washington, who is a good football team. But they're clicking. And nobody wants to play Oregon, I don't think. I don't think anybody is. Oklahoma is 6th. Now, we thought Oklahoma was much better this year, and they have been demonstrating that they are. But they fell asleep against UCF, and UCF's got some skill people. John Rice Plumlee at quarterback. They've got people. So UCF came back and was throwing a 2-point conversion to tie it at the end of the ball game. They didn't get to play. But a very disappointing effort for Oklahoma there in Norman this past week. They better stay with it now for Oklahoma. Washington is 5th. They barely beat Arizona State at home. Now, Arizona State always plays Washington close. If you look back at the history of these two teams, it's been a very close affair, and this time was no different. Don't know what it is with these guys, with these two teams, but Washington barely escaped 15-7. They didn't look good doing it, but they've looked good all year, so we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt in this one. Ohio State is 4th. They just dismantled Penn State, stayed ahead of Penn State in the horseshoe there, and just a dominating victory. Marvin Harrison Jr., the best wide receiver in the country right now, maybe the best player out there. Ohio State, everything in front of them too. Florida State is 3rd. They came from behind. Now, they got smacked in the face early against Duke. I don't know what they were expecting. I know Duke is physical and veteran, and they're well coached. This is not a joke, the Duke Blue Devils. So Florida State should have been expecting that. Really great home crowd. Jordan Travis started running the football. And when he runs, it opens up everything offensively for Florida State. So once that happened, that ball game was over. Florida State still looking good. Michigan dominating. Now, Michigan has got these problems that have arisen in terms of sign stealing. We'll have to see where that goes. I know some of the Big Ten coaches have publicly and publicly commented upon that. We saw the interview. You may have seen it on our Color and Pageantry Facebook where Greg Schiano was interviewed at halftime of the Michigan-Rutgers game. He insinuated things were going on out there that were improper. Other coaches, I believe, have said something. We'll see where that goes. People steal signs all the time. That's why we have all those boards on the. You see all those boards with the, Walt Disney World and all kind, Coca-Cola, all kinds of stuff up there on the sideline, hiding things. That's what that's all about. That's been going on for. But hey, if we got a rule, we got to follow it. And if we're not following it, we got to pay a penalty for that. So we'll see where that shakes out. But on the field, J.J. McCarthy in Michigan, dominating, just dominating. And we'll see what happens when they face the Buckeyes. They still got Penn State. But based upon what we saw with Penn State this week, don't think that's going to matter. But the Buckeyes, that will matter. But right now, Michigan, very strong. Number 2. Georgia's number 1. They've got the Florida Gators this week in Jacksonville. They should dispose of Florida. Georgia's much better than Florida. The one question I have about Georgia is they have lost their brilliant tight end Brock Bowers for a while. This is a guy that changes the game. He's an NFL no-doubter. And he is that type of player. I wonder if they're going to really miss him. We'll see. But Georgia, very strong, 2-time defending national champions. They're number 1 until somebody knocks them off. Can that be the Florida Gators this weekend? Don't think so. But we'll be watching. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. That's our top 25 for Week 8. Georgia Bulldogs still sitting there, the number 1 team in the land. Michigan looking really good. Florida State, Ohio State, Washington, and Oklahoma look to be the front runners for one of those playoff spots in there. And don't keep your eyes off of Alabama back there. So it's just a fun situation going on here. So we got a lot of good games coming up this weekend. We're going to be watching them all. Do like us over at Color Pageantry on Facebook if you want to follow during the week with some updates. Man, we're just so excited. There are going to be some good football games this week. Somebody is going to get beat. I don't know who. Somebody is going to get beat. We're going to be watching it all. We'll report back to you next week with our new top 25, who fell out and who's looking to get in. So hope everybody enjoys your week as you get ready for college football this weekend. And enjoy the weekend. Great college football action as we close out the month of October. We'll see y'all next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.